Hello and welcome to Toastmasters in the Community. My name is Fran Okeson. I'm the Area 64 Director for my second year in a row. Been that many times before. And today is going to be a special show. As I predicted a few months ago, Toastmasters International is devising an entire new program for the world. And we're going to get like an overview. It's in transition right now. And I do want to thank my crew who came in on the 4th of July weekend. I do appreciate that. Folks in the audience, you have to realize that we cannot see you because that part of the room looks like a black curtain is in front of separating you from us. So with me today, Tony Figueroa. And I was just reminding Tony that he's one of the Toastmasters International's big shots. And I was admiring your badge. And now you're part of the Toastmasters International what? Let's tell them, how high up are you?
Well, I'm probably the lowest in the totem pole for international officers.
You're so modest. That's ridiculous. Many years ago, I tried to get Tony Figueroa to run for district governor. And he said that couldn't do it. All of a sudden, he decided he was going to do it. So remember, when you wear that badge, you wouldn't have it if Fran Okeson didn't nudge you and keep nudging. I nudge a lot. Yeah. In fact, I just nudged Imogene. She's going to file for another couple of DTMs because she didn't know she could do it. I mentor people. And I said, of course you can do it. You're a district governor, so you had to be the two minor roles underneath it. Mm-hmm. So I'm sending her all my paperwork, and she's going to file 2 DTMs.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
good.
Yeah. You know, you gotta listen to the guys who've been around a while. Mm-hmm. This is my 29th anniversary, you know.
Oh, wow.
Yep, October 1st, 29 years. All right, so Tony, let's let the people know what your official thing is here, because I'm impressed. I told you, just send it to me in writing, Tony. All right, Tony is the Pathways, that's the new program, Pathways Learning Experience. And the Pathways, you are the Pathways Chief Ambassador for District 83, which is our district, with Staten Island, most of New Jersey, and Rockland County. You will be speaking today about the Pathways program. You're the Region 9 you were the Region 9, we are the Region 9, I'm going past. Region 9 Advisor 2013 and 14, which covered 6 districts in northeastern United States of America and 3 provinces in Canada. You were the District 46 Governor in 2005, 2006, and I was very proud that you moved up to that role. So Tony, my job today is to introduce the speakers. So I will be evaluated off-screen after the program, as you will be, because we'll leave this room. We could go in the green room, and our evaluators will take care of it. My job from one of the advanced manuals is to introduce the speakers, and we have speakers who are coming up for specific things. After your 40-minute program, I have 4 people who will come up and ask you a question based on something they would like you to clarify a little clearer, so that if people want to see the show, we can arrange for them to get a copy of the tape. So I'm going to I did introduce you, and the 4 people coming up later will be our Chief Director in the control room, Isaac Lovinovich. He'll be the first one to ask you a question. Fern Rashkova will be the second person who will come up. She was never a district governor, but she should have been many times over. Just too stubborn to go that way.
I agree.
Huh?
I agree.
Yeah, you agree.
Yeah.
She knows more than the people in California.
Mm-hmm.
But you go to her and she knows the answer. Imogene James, a fantastic district governor, is going to be 3rd, and then Paul Scharf will come out and be 4th, the first district governor of our new District 83. So, Tony, you're on. Please watch the lights. When you see red, you'll probably have 10 minutes. Joan, space it out so when he sees the red, he knows he's got 40 minutes. When he sees the red, you'll know to start winding it down, all right? So, ladies and gentlemen, a dear friend, past District 46 governor, Tony Figueroa.
Okay. Thank you, Fran, for that introduction.
Thank you for writing it.
And thank you, fellow Toastmasters, for your dedication and commitment. I know you are, because you're here today on a July 4th weekend. I must say that where I am now, I can blame mainly on Fran. It was she who pushed me, as you said, onto the path.
Did you really write that down?
Oh, yes. I did.
I should have kept quiet then. I should have just blushed now.
Yeah.
Go ahead, keep reading. That's fine.
Really. Much of what I gained, actually, in leadership, knowledge, and experience, I owe to the fact that I accepted the challenges that came my way in my Toastmasters journey and to which Fran pointed me to. You know?
I love you even more.
Oh, yeah.
Can I just break into you a minute for one quick thing? Let me tell the people. I went to mentor the Jersey Club because they were in trouble. Julie Prowski and I went. And he introduced me. He said, come over. I want you to meet our ambassador from the Philippines, whatever his big title was. I went over to be polite. I'm an animal lover. There's this gentleman, very impressive. He's got a bowl of soup with a fish head in it. I almost got sick to my stomach, and I thanked him, and I went away. I said to Tony, what's going on? He said, that's what we eat in the Philippines. That's why I was born in America, so I don't have to go and look at those things like that. But you go right ahead, Tony.
Okay. Well, obviously, Fran said that I'm the Chief Ambassador for Pathways in District 83. So obviously, we will be discussing Pathways today. And the first thing I will tell you about Pathways is that it is already here. The rollout began in February with 3 pilot districts, and the first region, Region 14, will launch Pathways this month. But what is Pathways? The quick answer is Pathways is the biggest project undertaken by Toastmasters International in decades. It brings extensive changes to the Toastmasters education program as we know it. But as we do in Toastmasters, we like to tell stories. And Pathways is no different. The Pathways story began with a vision that was in the strategic plan approved by the Toastmasters Board of Directors in 2010. The board considered our current education program, much of which was updated in the 1970s and where leadership became a separate track in 2005. It was necessary, they realized, to update the communication track and renewed our focus on the leadership track. The strategy was to match real experience with the current education program. The development team at headquarters, International, started with the project, and they later expanded the team by recruiting learning masters from all the districts existing in the world at that time. I think there were about 94 districts at that time, and as of today, from what I understand, there would be close to 110 districts.
Ambassador Covey started the 94th in Nigeria.
Yeah. From all the research done by the development team, analysis, feedback from surveys, they identified the 5 core competencies that was existing in the current program. And these 5 core competencies, from these competencies, they built the platform for the new program. And what are those 5 competencies? Obviously, one is public speaking, which Toastmasters is known for worldwide. Public speaking builds members' confidence in delivering prepared and impromptu speeches. They learn how to present their messages effectively, concisely, and hopefully professionally. The next is interpersonal communication. Members communicate with others verbally, non-verbally, in writing, or through electronic means. Here they learn how to build relationships, how to resolve conflict, and how to communicate well with others. The third competency that they identified is leading and managing. Leading deals with people, whether individuals or groups. Managing deals mostly with planning, organizing, and facilitating specific tasks. The fourth competency is leading strategically. This is the ability to see the big picture, as they say, and have the ideas and vision to do things better. The Toastmasters, it's a strategic leader, has a vision and the ability to attain goals and inspire others. And the last is building confidence through self-reflection and evaluation. Members learn to acknowledge their flaws and embrace their ability for self-improvement. By learning how to set goals and achieve them, they gain confidence in their knowledge, their abilities, and their skills. Within these core competencies, the new program, Pathways, has identified more than 300 sub-competencies, as opposed to the 68 sub-competencies in the current program. So, after all these, the next step was to adopt a formal name for the program. And the formal name adopted is called the Toastmasters Pathways Learning Experience. That's a very long name. So they decided that we will refer to this program in short as Pathways. So from now on, we will be referring to the program as Pathways. That name, we believe, sets off a journey of personal and professional development. It reflects a journey where there are many choices, many ways to achieve our goals, while moving forward all the time. For a lot of us, for individual members of Toastmasters, the obvious question is, what's in it for me? What's in it for us, the individual member? The Pathways program offers a few things. Number one, it is a learning experience that's both flexible and can be tailored to personal and professional goals. It offers communication and leadership skills with real-world application, meaning you can bring those skills to your workplace, to your home, to your community. It offers greater access to educational materials, primarily online. It provides expanded learning resources such as video and digital content. It provides standardized evaluation criteria that results in better quality feedback. And it promotes a stronger mentoring process to better support mentors and proteges. Pathways will help members meet their needs in an evolving global marketplace. The new program will also allow for earlier and more frequent achievement, which will give members a greater sense of accomplishment and motivation to continue. Pathways launched with 10 learning paths and 5 learning levels. These paths reflect the ambitious and sophisticated nature of the Pathways learning experience. The names of the paths are aspirational and clear. Each learning path consists of a set of projects, some required, others elective. Please refer to your handouts. Your handout shows the 10 learning paths and the 5 core competencies on the left-hand side that we will cover in Pathways as Toastmasters. On the reverse side is an example of a learning path with its required and elective projects and the 5 learning levels that we have to go through to complete the path. This gives you a good idea of how a learning path is structured. All the other learning paths are done similarly. In our example of the learning path, which is named Dynamic Leadership, please note that the path progresses sequentially from level 1 through level 5, advancing in complexity. At each level, we build on what we learned at the previous level. And this is the same for all the learning paths. Level 1, I should say, contains the same projects for all the other learning paths. It's all about the icebreaker, evaluation and feedback, researching and presenting. On level 2, each path would have an introduction to Toastmasters mentoring project and 1 or 2 introductory projects basic to the objectives of that particular learning path. Levels 3, 4, and 5, the projects are specific to the path. But there will always be a reflection project in level 5, which would allow the member an opportunity to reflect and share with the club members what they gained from completing the whole learning path. In Toastmasters, we always are motivated by recognition. It is a vital component to our Toastmasters experience. When the Pathways process began, less than 10% of all the members worldwide earned the Competent Communication Award. Less than 2% earned the Competent Leader Award. And less than 1% earned any recognition at the advanced levels. At the beginning of the project, the board established key objectives for the Pathways program. One of them is to provide recognition for members earlier and more frequently in their educational journey. This is because the board recognized that proper recognition helps motivate the members. To meet this objective, members will receive recognition at the completion of each level, making their progress along the path. It lets members know how far advanced they are and provides motivation to continue their journey. When we complete a path, we achieve the proficient designation and earn a credential. So, for example, if we complete level 5 of the dynamic leadership path, we could say, I am proficient in dynamic leadership, and that is your credential. or if you complete, let's say, effective coaching, then you can say, I am proficient in dynamic coaching, or I am proficient in motivational strategies. As members also, we would also be recognized much earlier. For example, we will receive recognition upon completing level 1 of the learning path, which has 3 projects. In the current education program, we do not receive recognition until we have completed 10 projects. In Pathways, once you complete the 3 levels in the 3 projects in level 1, you are recognized. The hope is that with more recognition will result in more educational achievement. Recognition will come in Pathways in a variety of ways. They could be digital badges, congratulatory emails from the international president, certificates, and could be a letter to the member's employer acknowledging the member's accomplishment. Then the next question is, what about educational awards and titles? The Distinguished Toastmaster Award, or DTM, will still be the highest form of recognition in Pathways. As we all know, the DTM award recognizes the highest level of achievement in Toastmasters. The other titles, however, will no longer exist, as we will explain that later. For now, let's focus on DTM. How do we achieve the DTM award in Pathways? Let's look at the requirements. 3 of the requirements of the present program will not change. Those 3 are serving as a club mentor or coach, serving as a club sponsor or conducting a speechcraft or youth leadership program, and serving as a district officer for 1 year. Those will not change. The new requirements will be completion of 2 learning paths to replace the educational awards in the current program, serving as a club officer for 12 months instead of the current 6-month requirement, and completing a capstone DTM project. Pathways will also have an impact on the Distinguished Club Program, or DCP, which remains a crucial component of our Toastmasters experience. Excuse me. Because Pathways offers a new learning structure, the educational goals for the DCP will also change. But before we go into those changes, let's step back to the current program. In the current program, we have 6 DCP education goals. The 4 others we will not discuss because they will not change. And we are all familiar with those 6 education goals, the CCs, the advanced communication goals, and the leadership goals. In Pathways, we must still achieve, the clubs must still achieve 6 education goals. But those 6 goals will be a combination of the levels that members have completed in the learning paths. Those goals are, number 1, 4 level 1s, 2 level 2s, 2 more level 2s, 2 level 3s, 1 level 4, and 1 level 5. 6 goals. But like every change in Toastmasters, we will have a 2-year transition period, by the end of which the new program will be solely in place. Pathways will have that same transition period when it begins, and it begins when the last district worldwide implements Pathways. During the transition period, the current program and Pathways will be running simultaneously. So the question is, what DCP goals would apply? And how would the club achieve their DCP education goals? Well, during that transition period, there will still be required 6 education goals in the DCP. Clubs can meet those 6 goals by either achieving 6 goals in the current DCP program or meet the 6 goals of the Pathways DCP, or they can achieve 6 goals that are a combination of the current DCP goals and the Pathways DCP goals. In other words, 86 goals out of a possible 12. After the end of the transition period, only the Pathways DCP goals will be applicable. The next thing you probably would want to know is, how are we going to track all of these that we're talking about? All that we do in Pathways will be stored online in a learning management system called Basecamp. Basecamp is where you access and store the online materials for the program. And those materials could include the projects, your evaluations, your notes. It could include resources like manuals and handbooks. It will have your transcripts, like what projects are you working on at what level, the levels you've completed, and the paths that you have completed. There are tips for improvement, like recommendations by other members who may have written you a suggestion for improvement or a recommendation for you to do to improve. They could be stored there. And it includes tools like videos and other digital materials. You can even create your own video for your project and store them in Basecamp. And this is also the site where Basecamp managers will review and approve educational completions. Question is, will it be user-friendly? Will members with limited technology skills be able to use it? The answer to both is yes. It is very user-friendly. I participated, and I think Cindy Wilson also participated in the beta testing of Basecamp. And I can tell you that I was thoroughly impressed with how easy it is to use the system. It's very easy. Now, you can work in Pathways either online or with pre-printed materials. But working online offers significant advantages. Pathways has many interactive tools in the learning projects, such as quizzes, assessments, and activities. And if you work online, you would also have the option to print the materials. If you work with pre-printed materials, you will not have access to the learning tools that are interactive in the learning paths. And you would also have less learning paths to work with that are printed. Those online. Now, let's go back to what I mentioned earlier about the educational titles, other than DTM. Those titles will no longer exist in Pathways. The work and educational awards in the current program will not be transferable because the projects and the learning structure are so different in the two programs that they could not find any equivalence to be able to transfer those efforts to Pathways. What we can do, starting now, is to complete the awards that we are working on before the transition period ends. Whatever educational awards we earn and titles we earn, by the end of the transition period will stay with us and will continue to be recognized. And remember, the transition period will last for 2 years after all the regions and districts have launched Pathways. That's a long time to finish any current awards that we are working on. If I have to make a guess, that would be at least 3 years from today. Probably closer to 3.5 years, perhaps even more. Why do I say that? Let me give you a good idea of where the rollout is at the time. It has a relation to the transition. As I mentioned in the beginning, Pathways is already with us. It's here. The rollout is being done in phases, which enables the organization, the Toastmasters organization, to manage support for the program and test its capacity. It allows the Pathways team to refine the educational program as needed and to see what additional steps members might need to adapt to this learning experience. The first phase of the rollout, the program districts, the program pilot districts, began in February, as I said, and has been completed. Those pilot districts are District 57 in Northern California, which began in February of this year, District 27 in the Washington, D.C. area, which launched in March, and District 51 in Malaysia, which rolled out in May of this year. The phased rollout will now be done by regions. And the schedule for 2017 is Region 14, late this month, July. As we speak, their Pathways ambassadors and Pathways guides in that region are making their club visits already. And mid-September, it will be Region 2, and in November, it will be Regions 6 and 7. The other 10 regions will be in 2018. Our district, District 83, is part of Region 9, which is scheduled last with Region 8. So but I think that is an advantage because I'm hoping that by the time it reaches us, all the problems will have been settled.
Yeah, I was thinking along those lines.
The schedule is not fixed, though. It may change depending on what problems, if any, may arise at any point during the rollouts, and how long it takes them to resolve those problems. Now, as a district, how do we prepare for our rollout? I mean, it's still a long way away, but it's not too early to think about it. As Toastmasters, we know that training is key. So training will be held at least 60 days before the district rollout. The program quality director of the district, Pathways ambassadors, and the soon-to-be recruited Pathways guides in District 83, and myself as chief ambassador will all play key roles in the rollout training as well as preparing the clubs. The Pathways ambassadors for District 83 and the Pathways guides will visit the clubs and help them prepare for the rollout. We all of us, all members and all those who are more or less involved in preparing, will have all the opportunity to make a huge difference. To that end, it's crucial that we all work together as partners. As teamwork and partnership will be vital to a successful launch of Pathways. We will all be responsible for the success of the launch. That's a big responsibility, but also a very exciting challenge and opportunity. With that, I'm ready for questions.
You are.
Yes.
It was a very, very well done presentation, Tony.
Thank you.
It's frightening.
It is.
All right.
At the same time, it's also exciting.
If you say so. A lot of, yes. I have a lot of notes here, and I'm not even on to ask a question, but we'll see how time goes. All right, let's call on our director, Isaac Galvinovich, who will be asking you the first question.
Where is Isaac? Isaac's still inside.
Is he I don't see him
he's coming in.
Huh?
He stood up already.
All right. Isaac Galvinovich, when you can get out of the control room, please. All right, Isaac, I hope you took some notes and that you have a question, as we all probably have. I come up to the microphone, please. Oh. Okay.
Okay. I just did something I was telling others not to do, and I should know better. And as soon as they go back to camera 3, no? Okay. Then we'll talk like that.
Talking to the mic, though.
Yes, I'm talking into the mic. I had actually 2 questions.
Okay.
Question number 1. Tony, you mentioned the online system that will keep everything together, the educational materials, our notes. Is it going to be password protected?
It is.
It is password protected.
It is. As a matter of fact, your username and password when you log on to Toastmasters International website will be the same. User and password, username and password that you will be using for Basecamp.
Okay.
And that's the reason why I've always asked people to start logging on to the TI website to get familiar with how that works.
Okay. And one more question, if I may. As I understand, the 10 speeches that actually make up the competent communicator are no longer there.
They will not be.
So what do we have instead?
The learning paths, the projects within the learning
Maybe
paths.
he didn't get one of these inside. Did you
Yes,
get
I
one?
did.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
I did.
If you look at the learning path with all these projects, those are all speeches.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay, speeches. You just said a keyword.
yeah. All right.
Okay. Thank you now. I'm done.
Thank you very much, Isaac. And if Fern Rashkova will please come up with a question or two.
I also have two questions.
I'm sure you all will.
Very concerned. You talked about training.
Please make sure you're going into the mic.
You
No.
talked about training. I want to know how the officers are going to be trained. Somebody just coming in and talking to the club, that's, like here, we're listening to you speak. Exactly, I'm assuming like the president and the vice president of education will get the most training. And how is this going to be done? Because you've got all these members that all at one time for a new program are going to want assistance, and the officers are going to be overwhelmed.
The way it's planned to be done is there will be webinars. The training will come from TI through webinars. So these officers of the clubs and the officers that I referred to who will be part of the training will be logging into these webinars. It's an interactive type of webinar, and they usually last anywhere between 1 hour and an hour and a half. How frequently those training will be done in preparation for the rollout, I still don't know. But there will be webinars that are directly beamed from headquarters.
Thank you. I'm also concerned, I like to have paper in front of me, a manual, and I know you do also. And you were talking about everything's going to be online. So you're telling me that we're going to be responsible at our own cost to download everything? There are going to be no manuals for purchase from TI?
There will be some printed materials, but in the beginning you will have to choose with whether you would get into the program online or with printed materials.
So we will be able to get printed materials?
Well, if you go online, you have the option to print the materials.
Yeah, but, all right, I want to get into a debate now. Why do I have to do that at my expense when I'm paying all these dues? The organization isn't giving me anything. What am I getting for my $100? But we don't need to, you don't need to answer that now. But my concern is that not everybody, you're talking about technology friendly. And I'm an idiot when it comes to computers. I'm very afraid of a webinar or this or that. That's my problem. But there are people in other parts of the world that are not going to be able to download and afford to download all these materials. And I'm very concerned about that.
I don't know about that, but from all the travels I've done, I found that people outside of North America are more advanced technologically. Believe it or not. Believe it or not. I mean, I can see some teenager teach me how to use some system that I have not even heard of in my trips.
All right. I am still very skeptical at this point. I'm trying to keep an open mind. This is the unknown for me, and I will do my best to take part of it. Thank you.
But I would suggest, though, that you try to get on the program online, because it really has a lot of advantages over the pre-printed materials.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Fern. And now we have Imogene James. All right, we got to get you working on the DTMs quickly, Imogene.
Will do.
We'll work on that.
Hi, Tony.
Hello.
Thank you very much for that presentation. It's still, I absorbed quite a bit, but then I also still have an awful lot of questions. Just a couple I'll ask you today. I know that there are other regions. This is being rolled out by regions or districts. I believe you said regions. Or it could be either or.
The districts are done, pilot districts were done. Now we're going to start with the regions.
Oh, now you're going to do it by regions. At some point, I'm assuming there will be some feedback as to how the program is going with those that have already started rolling out the program.
Yeah.
Is that, and how do they plan to make that adjustment? Do they plan to make some adjustments if they feel that there's certain districts that are saying the same thing, that they feel there's a weakness somewhere or something major should be changed?
Well, that's the reason for the phased rollout, that
Okay.
we're phasing it and spacing it in that way. Because what they plan to do is that they would manage the feedback, and they will not move on to the next, let's say, regions until they have resolved any problems
major
that may
issue.
arise during
Great,
this time.
Great, that's good to know.
That's why I say maybe the 3-year period that I guessed would probably be much more than that, if depending on the questions
sure.
or problems that may arise.
And one other question, you talked about the base camp, and I do need a little clarification on that. I know it's online, everything is online Is that where, now we enter our own information there? I'm not clear on that. Like you said, when we, I guess, complete a project or whatever,
Well, when
we
you,
enter our own information?
yes, when you not all the time. When you begin a project, for example, when you open that project, you do it yourself. Then you get the materials that are
Okay.
for that project. But when you present the project in your club, you will have an evaluator. Now, there are options that you have. The evaluator can either type his evaluation directly on his laptop and load it into your file, or he could write it down in longhand and give it to you, and you can scan it into your file
Right.
in your account in Basecamp, or you can type it up yourself based on what you read, which probably is not the best alternative. I would say scan it directly into your account.
Okay. I see that being a little bit of a problem in getting things done efficiently, because it sounds as if we no longer have, we will continue to have area directors or anything like that,
yeah,
or
that's not going to change.
that's not, we're still having, good, that's good to know.
What is important, though, is that now there will be what they call the base camp managers,
Oh, base camp managers.
who are the president and the VPE of the clubs. Because before you can move on it, let's say you complete 3 projects in level 1, you have to have those validated by the base camp manager that you
Okay.
did complete them, not that you passed or anything, but that you did complete them
Right.
before you can move on to the next level.
Okay, that's good to know that there's someone in the club
Yeah.
that's
Monitors that.
monitors that,
Yeah.
because that makes me feel a little better, because you couldn't count on me to get this out efficiently, and it might happen with a lot of other people,
It's
with
an-
all the responsibilities we all have. That would be my concern.
It's an
Those are my
additional,
que-
it's additional work for the president and the VPE, but
Right.
I think it's worth it.
Okay, thank you, and those are my questions.
And will you be my helper? Because right now I'm VP of 3 clubs, president of 1, and I'm holding 12 offices among my clubs this year. So you're going to be my assistant and do a lot of this, because I am not computer technical at all.
Well, we can talk about that later.
Hey, I helped you get a start up the ladder, so, return the favor. Paul Scharf, our 1st District 83 governor, and you're going to have to train us, Paul. You're the first of our governors, so I don't like that smirk he's got over
He's an
there.
ambassador, and he's applying for Pathways Guide too.
I'm so impressed with Paul. Paul, let's hear your questions.
Well, my first question. The presentation you gave had a lot of information on it. You gave us a lot. The ambassadors, among other people, are going to have to be trained ahead of time prior to or in the course of the district becoming active in the new program. I would like to ask if I and or at least the ambassadors for 83 to get a copy of your presentation,
Sure,
because that has some super information in it that,
sure. I'll send it to
said-
all the
Pardon me?
ambassadors. I will send it to all the ambassadors.
outstanding. That's
And-
number one.
What I could also
Yeah.
do is I'll send the slides that I used at the district conference.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we have to, we really have to be on top of everything. If we're going to go out to the clubs and say, do this, do this, do that, we have to know what to say.
Yes. Yes,
Naturally.
I agree.
Can Paul have your permission to send it to me?
Sure.
Thank you.
You got it.
He probably would anyway, but I just like to, I like to have it on the tape that you're approving that.
The next thing that I wanted to bring out, well, not the next thing, but something you had just recently mentioned. You said something about presidents and VPEs are going to have to approve or sign off
That that the member has completed the project.
that the members completed.
Yeah.
Properly, the president and VPE are supposed to know, should know about the project in order to say, yeah, it was done. which means that these people, these officers are now taking on, and it's not that terrible, but an additional responsibility and some additional knowledge. Because in some clubs, we get presidents or VPEs that are newer members.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the clubs may have to think about more advanced members or members that have been around a while, know what's going on, to take that position. Because that's going to be an important position.
Yeah. Actually, I look at it from the perspective of the current program, where a club officer, usually the VPE, would also initial off on the projects that were completed by the members. So this takes the place of that.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Okay. Last thing, and this I'm not sure how valuable it is, but I'm going to throw it out. Everything's going to be done on computer. Yes, there's the ability to have a manual or information. Is it possible? Is it feasible? Is it beneficial for newer members or those that are not so computer savvy to have both handy? The fact that we're going to work on a computer, but to have the manual or the information about that project, about that level, as they're working on it.
Well, if you work on it online, you have the option to print the manual or
Okay.
the material that you're working on. Let's say the project that you're working on. So you can have it in hard copy that you could work with.
Okay.
And then probably if you complete the project, then that's the time you load it up to the system.
All right.
But as Fern said, do we have to pay to produce that manual?
Yep. I thought nobody would ask.
Oh, it's on my paper, but I was letting
Yeah.
them go first.
The pricing scheme that the board adopted is that when we launch with Pathways, all members at that time, on the date that we launch, will get one free path. Okay? If you are a member of 2 or more clubs, then you get 2 free paths at the most.
I'm in 5 clubs.
You get 2.
And then
the
the
most.
godfather, which you are to this district, you take care of your godchildren like me?
I don't give those. I give those.
I'm just getting all this on tape, Tony. You got to realize that
Yes,
this
I
is
know.
blackmail
I know.
time.
So you get 2. Now, subsequent paths after the free paths will cost $20
After the free one.
after the free one.
Well, I'll get 2, you get 2, we'll share.
Okay.
Yeah. Then
Excuse me. I have
What?
to watch the time.
I've been watching the time. You
Okay.
see, my head's been going.
In that case, let
We
me...
have 4 minutes to
let me
finish it.
thank you for answering the questions, and you people can wrap it up.
all right.
The
We'll get ready to
presentation
wrap
gave us a lot more questions to think about when we go to Japan. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
the 4 people.
Thank you.
Let me just see. All right, now, we only have a couple of minutes, Tony, so let me get involved. I'm wondering, has anybody from Toastmasters International worked the program? Whether they joined a club or there is the #1 club, and have they done it to see what we're going to be facing?
I'm not aware that anybody in Toastmasters headquarters.
Well,
has
don't you
done
think
it.
that would be an important part to have
but-
somebody there actually, like Dan Rex, he's the head of everything. Why doesn't he join one of those clubs and do the program? Dan, I'm saying this to you, please.
The pilot district, 57 in Northern California, I happen to have a friend there who is an ambassador, and he has worked the program. He's actually finished 1 path already.
What does he do for a living?
He's a technology type person.
What about just a lowly housewife, mother, retiree, and we do Toastmasters because we love to communicate with other people on our level, and all of a sudden everything is technology.
I'll
There
have
has to
look
be
for that
something
kind of
for us.
person.
I'm paying $90 for 5 clubs.
Yeah.
There's got to be something that's,
I am not
more
aware
reachable.
that there's somebody like that. But I think there is, because based on what they told us, in District 57, only 8 people chose to work with printed materials. Everybody chose to work online. Everybody else.
I placed an order for the Speechcraft business because I'm going to be doing them this year.
Yeah.
And I had to ask the fella from California to help me line it up. And he was saying it as if I knew what he was talking about. And luckily we got through because they know me there and they know I'm very serious, and I don't get off the phone until I'm satisfied that this thing went through. And I filed a new member yesterday to bring this club up to distinguished because we only had 19 people. Now I have 20 as of yesterday, so we're safe. We select distinguished. But they have to think about us in small communities. Most of my members are retired, don't work, or never had a job. I mean, for me, I had foster children and I had foster seniors. I didn't go to an employment place. All right, I had people. I used my house as a place to take care of people who had no homes. So there's another whole area of people here. We're not all technology people. I think it's going to cause a lot of people to not join Toastmasters again. Maybe the new people, the younger people in the world that use all these things, it's probably what they need to survive in their job at work. But there's a whole senior population out here.
Yeah. Believe me, those questions have been raised, and
Not by me, though, not yet.
not by you, but they have been raised by other people, and sad to say, up to now, I haven't received what the answer was from those
I
ones.
think I may write a letter to California on my past district governor letterhead.
sure.
Because I do send them these tapes, so they'll get copies of this tape. So, but Tony, I do want to thank you very much. We're down to 50-some odd seconds. I want to thank you. You've always been there for me over the years, and it was fun meeting you years ago. It was fun, just like we were chartering that club at the time of 9/11. Remember, and I couldn't cross the bridge to get over
Oh,
to
yes,
Jersey,
the,
and I called you. I said, Tony, please. That was a Washington club.
The Office of Thrift Supervision.
Yeah, they were big shots from Washington.
Yeah.
Nice group. And I said, Tony, can you do something? And you said you take your Jersey people over there, and you do it.
And we
I
did.
called California, and they told me that since I was terrified of the bridge, that if I could find somebody I trusted to sign all my documents, I was district governor. I said, Tony Figueroa, and then you took care of signing everything on that side of the bridge, because to this day, when we cross the bridge, I say a prayer before I get on the bridge. I'm always looking up at the sky, and that's what, years ago.
Yeah.
Tony, it's been fine having you here again. You'll come back again soon.
Oh, sure.
And I love you like I always did. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. And we'll see you again next month.